Ray Dalio is preparing for the greatest crash of our generation. The war with Iran is going to create a new economic order where the US dollar is no longer going to be the global reserve currency. And this crash is not going to be like a stock market crash or a Bitcoin crash, but rather this is going to be a crash in the value of the dollar. And that means that you can buy a lot less things with the exact same amount of dollars. The real value of your savings suddenly will evaporate, and you will simply be a lot poorer just overnight. This is no longer a far-fetched reality that might happen 20 years from now, but rather the Iran war has brought that problem right in front of us. So if you're not financially ready for the biggest crash in the history of the US dollar, you will be wiped out. So listen very carefully. So in 1945, when the United States dollar became the global reserve currency, it didn't instantly become the global reserve currency because for the last 100 years, the entire world was using the pound as the global reserve currency. So it was very difficult to move from the British pound to the US dollar. So in 1945, the UK still had 80% of the global reserve currency, and that move was gradual to the US dollar. In fact, a lot of nations actually trusted the British pound a lot more than they trusted the US dollar, because the British pound or the British economy has been the world's strongest economy, and the British military had the most powerful navy. But everything changed back in 1956. See, if you go back to 1955 and you look at the British Empire, suddenly you see that all of these nations were part of the British Empire. Canada, the UK, the Middle East, African countries, Australia, Southeastern countries. And the UK might not directly rule these countries, but because they have been part of the Commonwealth countries, they would use the pound as the global reserve currency, since they trusted the pound a lot more than they trusted the dollar. And since so many countries are already using the British pound as the global reserve currency, it reinforced other nations to do the exact same thing, and that's how the British pound remained as the global reserve currency, even though that the United States already was the world's largest economy and the US dollar was directly pegged to gold. But this crisis in 1956 entirely destroyed the value of the pound, and that's what we call a Suez Canal crisis. So the Suez Canal is this choke point in Egypt where ships can actually cross the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea and the other parts of the world a lot faster than taking the long road through the Africa. And that means that a lot of ships that come, for example, from India to the entire Europe or even London itself would actually cross this choke point. And this choke point was entirely controlled by the British economy, by the British government. However, in 1956, Egypt is like, listen, this is part of Egypt. This canal belongs to Egypt. So we have nationalized the canal by paying off and buying the entire canal. So Egypt basically nationalized the canal and actually paid for it real money. But the UK wasn't actually happy about that, because the UK is like, 80% of all our ships that are crossing from India to the UK are using the canal, which means that if we don't have the control over this canal, we don't have the control over 80% of all the ships that cross there. So it was a matter of national security, which is why the UK tried to overthrow the president of Egypt and take full control of this canal with the help of Israel and France. The plan was very simple, that we're going to quickly overthrow, take back the canal. Nobody doubted that the UK can do that. This was the most powerful empire for the last 100 years. They had the global reserve currency. They had the most powerful navy. But things didn't go as they planned it, because after pressuring Egypt, Egypt refused to give up the canal. They couldn't actually overthrow the Egyptian president, and Egypt basically started a guerrilla war against all the ships that will cross the Suez Canal. And over time, every single day, there was a pressure on the global economy because this important choke point was closed. Every single day, the global economy suffered billions of dollars simply because the UK wanted to overthrow a president, and they couldn't actually do that. And militarily, they couldn't even take full control of the canal itself to open it for the rest of the ships, at least for their own ships. That economic pressure mounted on the UK, and countries across the globe started pressuring the UK that either you are going to finish the job today or please leave the canal alone and go back to London. In fact, the United States itself threatened the UK that if the UK is not going to agree to a ceasefire, the United States is going to massively sell off the British debt. During World War II, the United States purchased a lot of British debt. So the United States was the largest holder of the UK debt after World War II. And the United States simply told the UK that, listen, UK, if you're not going to agree to a ceasefire, then I am going to massively sell off the entire UK debt. And if you do that, suddenly there is going to be a huge oversupply of the British debt in the market. While there isn't such demand for the British debt on the other side, the value of the pound is going to evaporate, and suddenly all nations are going to exit the pound, and that will essentially be the end of the UK, because the UK will go bankrupt. The only way for the UK to save itself was for the Bank of England to print trillions of dollars and buy all of that debt from the United States. But if you do that, you're suddenly massively increasing the supply of pound in the market, which devalues the dollar and causes massive inflation. So under the immense pressure of the United States and the rest of the world, the UK basically abandoned the canal. But that instantly shattered the illusion of the great empire that ruled the world over the last 100 years. The British Navy suddenly was not as powerful as it seemed. The Britain couldn't actually reinforce their laws and rules around the globe. Suddenly, if you did not want to actually listen to the UK, you could do that, and the UK did not have the military power or the economic power to pressure you. In fact, even if you were part of the Commonwealth countries and you had a lot of pounds as a global reserve currency, now you knew that the United States could basically threaten the value of all of your British pounds in your central bank if the United States would want to pressure the UK. That was the moment when the world realized that the British pound is no longer as safe as it was, the British economy is not in charge, the UK is not in charge. Now the new boss in town is the United States of America. So all of these Commonwealth countries that held so much pound as their reserve currency, they started selling their pounds and they started buying a lot of US dollars. The share of the pound as the global reserve currency went down from 80% to as low as 30% in the next couple of years after that incident, because it sent a very clear message to the rest of the world that London is no longer in charge, pound can be easily threatened and devalued, and when you're holding a currency as a reserve currency, the most important thing that you care about is the value of that currency. If that currency can easily be devalued tomorrow, then you cannot possibly use it as a reserve currency. And that's why one currency is easily used as the global reserve currency, while another currency is not, because people are afraid. They don't trust that currency. After that incident, they stopped trusting the British pound. And now the United States is facing a very similar scenario today, just like the UK did back in 1956. This time, the battle is for the Strait of Hormuz. So the United States launched this war against Iran, and now the rest of the world understands that Iran did not launch this war. It was the United States, and the United States did it for its own purposes. Now Iran, to defend itself, simply closed the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the global oil actually goes to the rest of the world, including natural gas. And there are countries that really depend on the Strait of Hormuz for the entirety of their oil. Without oil, you don't have factories. Without oil, you cannot drive your cars. Without oil, you cannot fly your planes. Without oil, you don't even have the military. So this checkpoint is as important as the Suez Canal back in 1956 for the entire world. At first, the United States thought that we were easily going to decapitate the entire leadership of Iran, we'll take full control of Iran, change the regime in Iran, and now Iran is going to become a pro-American country. But here we are, 1 month almost into the war, and the United States is barely trying to control the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, Iran is dictating the rules and telling the world that all ships can pass the Strait of Hormuz unless the ones who are actually from the United States or allying themselves with the United States. And that's literally the vast majority of the ships, because the Gulf countries on the other side are the source of the petrodollar. So the Gulf monarchies such as Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, all of these countries have actually agreed with the United States to sell their oil exclusively in US dollar in exchange for protection and technology from the United States. But now the United States cannot even secure the passage from Iran. That means that these countries, in order for them to sell oil from now onwards, they might need to stop selling their oil in US dollars. They might need to start selling their oil in another currency. That means that is the end of petrodollar, because the United States started the war and cannot even secure the most important choke point in this world. So the US starts the war, the US cannot protect it, and now in 6 months from now, the United States will be under immense pressure by its debt holders. So the US debt right now has almost about to cross $40 trillion. And a big chunk of that debt is being held by foreign countries, such as Japan, the United Kingdom, China, Belgium, Canada, and so many other nations. Guess what all of these countries have in common? All of them rely on that choke point. So take an example of Japan that holds $1.2 trillion of US debt. Now, Japan imports 95% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz, and it has oil reserves for the next 6 to 8 months. So 6 months from now, Japan is going to run out of oil, and it will be a financial catastrophe for them because factories will start closing down. So Japan might be one of the countries that will try to pressure the United States, either finish the job or leave the Strait of Hormuz and let our oil to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, we will no longer be paying for the oil in US dollars, but that is the new rules. These are the rules that Iran put in place. Take the United Kingdom that also relies almost 100% for their oil from other nations. China imports about 70% of their oil from Iran and the Middle East. And the other countries that heavily rely on oil, they might not get their oil directly from Middle East, but because the global oil market is one giant market, whenever there is a shortage of supply in the market, it is going to drive prices higher across the entire globe, which is going to cause real inflation in all of these countries and will force them to call the United States and say, listen, US, if you don't actually stop this war, if you don't agree to a ceasefire with Iran on these terms, we are going to sell the US debt, which means that is going to crush the entire US market, because there aren't many other people on the other side that can actually or potentially even buy so much US treasuries. And that means that the only person or the only entity that can buy so much US treasuries is the Federal Reserve. And if the Fed is going to do that, that means that you're massively printing money and devaluing the dollar. First of all, imagine for a moment so many other nations that are holding so much US treasuries. Suddenly, the dollar is being devalued by the Federal Reserve. What message does that send to all these nations? That the United States is no longer in control of this war. The United States is no longer in control of the value of the dollar. Since other nations are massively selling US treasuries, the dollars that I'm holding as a reserve currency are instantly evaporating in value. Secondly, the illusion of empire is shattered. Up until now, everybody thought that if the United States is going to pick a fight with you, the United States aircraft carriers will easily bomb your country, change the regime in your country. That's why any war that the US started since 1945, there has always been a coalition. So other nations will step in with the United States. Remember the war in Iraq? How about the war in Afghanistan? But with the war in Iran, Japan is not sending their ships. The UK is not sending their ships. France is staying away from this conflict because nobody wants their ships to be blocked in the Strait of Hormuz. So the illusion that the United States can actually do whatever it wants and change the regime in anywhere it wants is no longer there. From now onwards, that trust and that illusion has completely been destroyed. So what are the options the US has right now? Option number one, agree to Iran's terms and leave the entire Middle East, and that will essentially be the end of American empire. Now, the second option is for the United States keep bombing and the Strait of Hormuz will be closed, and the United States in 6 months from now will be pressured by all of these nations to actually agree to a ceasefire. Now, the third option that the US has is actually send troops to the ground and secure the Strait of Hormuz. And that is actually possible, and that's most likely what the United States is going to do. And we can already see that the United States is bringing troops from all across the globe to Middle East. Now, some people say that this is just a negotiation tactic, but let's be honest, it's not a negotiation tactic. Trump is simply trying to win some time so that he starts his ground invasion to secure the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this ground invasion is going to cost the US government trillions of dollars. Just to start the war, they have already requested $200 billion. And this is just the beginning. It will easily go to 2, then 5, then $10 trillion. And for comparison, just compare it to the Iraq war. The Iraq war was about $3 trillion. So Iran is much larger than Iraq, has a population 4 times than Iraq, and it's a mountainous country. So it is going to increase the total debt to levels that we haven't actually seen. And that debt level is going to be insanely unsustainable. But here's the biggest problem, that even if you send ground invasion to secure the Strait of Hormuz, the only question is that how long can you secure the Strait of Hormuz? 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years? The longer you keep your troops there, the bigger are going to be the losses, the more there is going to be political instability inside the United States. So it's a matter of time that the United States will leave the Strait of Hormuz anyways, even if the United States will be able to successfully control it. Which means that after the war, the US dollar is no longer going to be the only global reserve currency. Now, here's the difference between today and 1956. When other nations started moving away from the UK as the global reserve currency, they had a very good choice, which was the US dollar. The dollar was directly backed to gold back in the days, so the choice was very clear. You don't want the pound? Just move to the US dollar. Today, we don't have that clear choice. There isn't a single currency that can replace the US dollar. So, the dollar's share as the global reserve currency right now is about 56%. The rest is being shared with euro, Japanese yen, the British pound, and then the Chinese yuan, and then gold and other currencies. So basically, even if the US dollar's share, the global reserve currency, is going to deteriorate, let's say to about 30% or maybe even 25%, we're basically moving to a multipolar currency reserve currencies. So maybe the share of euro will rise to 25 to 30%. The Japanese share will rise to 10% or 12%. The British share will rise back to 8 to 10%. And finally, China is going to take a huge chunk of that share, and maybe its share will rise to 10% or up to 15%. So basically, the United States will give up that share to other reserve currencies, and a huge chunk of that is also going to go to gold. That's why you see that gold prices most likely will continue rising, even though that recently they have fallen sharply. The final question is, how is that going to impact you? Now ask yourself a question. You are getting paid in US dollars. Now, the value of the dollar is going to evaporate. Now, nobody is going to pay you a lot more just because the dollar lost its value. So you will most likely be paid the exact same amount of money, but that money will buy a lot less things. So if you're making $100,000, your $100,000 will simply be able to buy a lot less things. So eventually you are going to get a lot poorer. If you have savings in a bank account, those savings will be worth a lot less. Nobody is going to steal that money from your bank account, but with those US dollars, you will be able to buy a lot less things. So here's the question. How can you protect your money? How can you ensure that you will continue making more money? And that's where the idea of investing comes in. Here's what rich people are doing. Rich people are taking their money. They're not keeping a lot of their money in savings, but rather they're keeping them in investments. Even if you look at the richest people in the world, they don't have much cash. They take that cash and they invest it in really great assets, in real stocks, in real estate, in bonds maybe. And as the dollar loses its value, the value of real estate or the value of these stocks will continue rising. And that's how they protect themselves. But most importantly, they keep getting wealthier. So if you want to know which stocks you should be buying right now, if you want a step-by-step guide on how you can actually start investing and protecting yourself, but most importantly, massively profit from this devaluation, then check out the Investing Academy. The link is in the description of this video.